They all had fights. They all had territorial disputes. They all had religious or other disputes, and they killed each other. That's normal. It's history. Everywhere, on every spot there human beings are on the world. But, you tell
It's
that to a progressive and they tell you, oh, you just don't understand. It's history.
because it's the way of the world. Well, everybody just remembers the one, the commercial of the Indian standing next to the highway looking at the pollution. That's their idea of what the American Native American is. That's their ideal. That's what they think it is. They don't look at everything else that went along with it. And
That's
with
why they're
that,
racist. Oh, go ahead.
and with that, I'm going to say, well, hello, one and all. Good evening. This is Frank, your good friend Frank, the Range Report Johnson, coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina, as we endeavor for another episode of the weekly Roundtable. I am one of your hosts, Frank, and to my right is Michael Vasquez, Dragon of the Bronx, New York's one and only independent true journalist. As you can see this evening, we're a little bit short-staffed. Mike Marshall's on his way home from his day job. He's driving slow through some arid conditions. I'm not going to be on with you very, very long this evening, as I had well, the rear end fell out of my truck and onto my head today. So I don't feel good. I don't feel good. I had a 40-pound piece of cast iron clunk me right in the faccia's face for you those who don't speak Italian. And I wrenched my neck really something bad out there today underneath the truck, and I don't have the strength to even keep my head upright this evening. We didn't want to leave Vasquez here to his own devices to argue with nobody but himself. So I said, you know what, I'll muster up enough energy to come on and share a little time with you. Now, Vass and I were talking off camera about an event that he was unfortunate enough to, I guess, attend or participate in to some degree. Vass, retell me and everyone listening and watching your tale of woe from the common sense perspective. Okay. that you were the only one there watching.
So it was interesting. It was in New York City on the lower west, on Midtown West Side, 57th Street West. There was an event yesterday. It's called the Free and Equal Debate. Basically, it's the third-party debate for libertarians, the Socialist Party, the Green Party. They have their own presidential debate with the candidates that are nominees in each of their parties. So we had 2 libertarians, 2 members of the Green Party, and 1 member of the Socialist Party. And it was a joke. It was comical. And I want to say the libertarians were the statesmen of the event. This is the Libertarian Party, good, bad, indifferent. They're the ones known for being the outsiders, being the extreme in mainstream politics. No. In this event, they might as well be the establishment. They were so far away. We had one of the Green Party members introduced herself. This is her introduction, Jasmine Stewart. And introduces herself as the fat black socialist. Now, in her mind, it appears that these are qualifications for a presidential candidate. Being fat, being black, and being a woman were all qualifications that elevated her amongst her peers to run for president. I don't understand how any of that has anything to do with politics, that has anything to do with, anything in life. But she was damn proud of that. She then went on for the next 2 hours during the questions to declare herself a racist, an ageist. She's a sexist, and she wants to destroy the Constitution. Then we had the actual communist there, which is Claudia de la Cruz, who was doing what most socialists do. I promise you that everything will be rainbows and unicorns and candy. Just give up everything you have. Give it to me. I will run, and the government will run everything, and it will be perfect. Don't worry. We're going to, one of her great ideas to help is to take all of the land that everyone owns in America and give it back to the indigenous people who are dead, but give it back to them. Mind you, you get to stay. Her answer is you get to stay where you are. You still get your house. They own the land. Missing the obvious question, well, if someone else owns the land and they want to wreck my house, why won't they? No, but don't worry. It'll just work out. It's all okay. Details don't matter. Just the big thing. Don't worry. It's all universal. And we're gonna redistribute everything. Everything's going to be redistributed. These are insane people. And Jill Stein, Green Party, she was there, and she's been through this before, and she's spouting off her, we're going to all die. If even one nuclear missile fires off, Joe Biden's going to get us killed because, well, she didn't mention Joe Biden, but we're going to go into a war, and if even one missile fires because of our conflict with China, one nuclear missile, and the world will be put into a nuclear winter. This is supposed to be someone who understands the environment. This is someone who's run for president before. We have nuclear tests all over the world, whether it's China or Russia. France even does nuclear weapon testing. It's the same thing as a bomb going off. It just happens to be where no people are. It's the same thing. And she's saying the planet's going to go into a nuclear winter. That makes no sense. But you're not supposed to think about it. You're supposed to feel. You're supposed to feel like they know what they're talking about. You're supposed to feel like they have an answer that's going to help you. It's absolute absurdity. Absolute absurdity. There were people there defending Cop City. Remember when we were talking about Atlanta? We were talking about the riots in Atlanta when the defenders of the Atlanta forest decided that's the autonomous zone, which autonomous zones are illegal. They violate every local, state, and federal law known to man. They are, by definition, insurrectionist because every one of these autonomous zones do not recognize the United States government, the Constitution, or any of the laws. They're insurrectionists. So the defenders of Atlanta Forest in January 2023, went out into the city of Atlanta, burned down or attempted to burn down several buildings, including police stations and private businesses. That's called terrorism. And then they went back to their autonomous zone, got into a firefight with the police who were trying to clear the land. And then they decided to firebomb a facility being built for the police, being built by the city to train the police and the fire department and EMS to better integrate with the public, to be able to have better public relations as well as to do their jobs better. And they wanted to firebomb that. They even had people coming from France to go in to be part of defenders of Atlanta Forest to firebomb the police station. We know this because the people who got arrested, they were from other countries. Almost 80% of the people weren't from the state of Georgia. And they were defending that at this debate last night. I can't take it seriously. I can't take that serious. I mean, maybe it's me, but when I hear those kinds of things and people are saying, I want to be president, you should vote for me, I have to say to myself, my God, the infection that is going on in America, the indoctrination, the damage that is being done to America is at a scale I cannot imagine, because these people actually think they're serious. They're getting tens of thousands of dollars. They have thousands of people who support them. It makes no sense to me. It's incredible. Go ahead.
Well, you asked the question, how do I take these people seriously? You have to. You have to take these people seriously because there are other people that are taking them seriously. People with money are taking them seriously. People with agendas are taking them seriously. People who are looking at these morons, these intellectually bankrupt, morally repugnant morons, and saying, these are the ones that are going to burn the cities down. These are the ones that are going to kill the cops. These are the ones that are going to kill the fire department. They're going to put a halt to the ambulances trying to get to the injured. These are the ones that are going to do all of that. Not the people that are going to use them and their radical ideology. The people who are going to use them have got the same ends, but are just going to use these people as the tools in which to bring those ends to bear.
Yeah, but
you have to keep these people, you have to keep them, you have to take them seriously, because when it comes down to it, where they were fringe people 25, 30 years ago, they're dangerous people now. They're dangerous because we're living in a society now that says that there are no longer any punishments for anybody on the left. There's no incarceration. There's no prosecution. There's no fines. There's nothing. There is nothing. When you have the president of the United States comes out on, prior to being sworn in, saying, for the first 100 days of my administration, no one is going to be deported, regardless of what crime they were suspected of, other than entering the country illegally. And then after that, only felons will be deported, and that'll be on a case-by-case basis. Yeah. When you've got these people have gotten a stack of get-out-of-jail-free cards, and they are now feeling bulletproof. They feel completely bulletproof. They feel like they've been validated and that every one of their ideas have been exonerated. They've been told, you're right. You are who's going to inherit it. They're being lied to as well. They're being fed a line of bullshit because while they're over there trying to be the ones to confiscate your property, they don't realize someone else is going to be over there confiscating theirs.
Well,
they're
no.
useful idiots. These useful idiots. They're brown shirts.
Pretty much. No, they are brown shirts, and it's even worse than that. As an example, Claudia de la Cruz, the Socialist Party candidate for the presidency of the United States, at one point was actually insulting America and all American citizens because of what's happening in Israel, of Hamas, saying that we have to support Palestine and Hamas. Now, I want you to imagine Hamas and Iran have the ideology that they would kill women for learning how to read and write, for driving and having jobs and being in politics in the first place. The very same people that she is claiming solidarity with, that she is advocating for and trying to get support for, are the very same people that would beat her to death with rocks just because she doesn't believe in the God they believe in. And if she's a true socialist, that means she doesn't believe in God, because socialism and communism do not believe in God. So that means they would stone her to death for being an infidel of the highest order, because she doesn't believe in God. She's actually defaming their version of God. And as she has no faith, she has no belief, they have declared to kill her, just like they killed the Israelis. The Israelis don't believe in the same God as Iran and Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis, so they're going to try and genocide them. They've written it down, they've said it publicly, and she's like, well, we got to support them. Do you realize they're going to kill you too? That because she supports gay people existing, because she supports women being able to read and write and go to work, because she's not believing in their faith like they want her to believe, they would stone her to death as well. It is stupid, but you're not supposed to think about it. You're not supposed to realize, there is this logical consequence. Just thinking to the next logical step, not even down the road. We're not talking 4D chess. We're talking about checkers here. We're talking about tic-tac-toe. This is the next step. And they're like, oh, I have no idea. Complete compartmentalization. No, but we support Hamas. There you go. That's it. Don't think about any of the consequences. That's it.
Look, they're free to feel this way. They're free
Yes.
to extol these virtues because they don't live there. They don't live there. It's like the first two people during when Hamas attacked Israel, the first two freaking people that wound up getting killed over there, first two Americans, Palestinian sympathizers. They moved over to Israel specifically with the idea that they were going to protest against the Israeli government for how they treated the Palestinians. And what happened? They both got murdered.
Now,
these people, if you're not willing to put your money where your mouth is and lead by example, shut up. Shut up.
Well, I guarantee you they've never lived in socialist nations as the average person.
Well, that's the thing. You want to talk about all the virtues of taking your property and dispersing it. There is nothing at all that prevents these people from giving away everything that they have. There's nothing that prevents them from making a modification at their accountant's office to have 70% of their taxes of their paycheck taxed.
Oh yeah, but they don't want
that voluntarily.
I understand, but they think everything is going
capitalism.
No, they think it's all going to be free love and everything will be equal.
But there's nothing preventing them from throwing out their iPhone, from smashing their Android, from folding up the computer and throwing it in the garbage. There's nothing preventing them from never getting on another bus or subway or anything else that has a carbon footprint to it. There's nothing that prevents them from making their own clothing, from trying to figure out how to make their own glasses or whatever else they do. There's nothing preventing them from figuring out how to go farm for themselves and feed themselves. But they don't, because they are a bunch of petulant, cowardly children who have the benefit of living in the greatest country on the face of the planet and not understanding that by living here grants them the virtue of being able to criticize what they don't understand or what they don't like, because they're too goddamn stupid to realize what fucking hypocrites they all are.
Yes, that's absolutely true. By the way, I'm working on a video. I already did one video where I showed I worked down, I had 1,600 photos that I took, worked it down to 122, put that with a musical track, and I put that out, which is interesting. So it's political commentary without words. It's just the photos of the event. But one of the things in the video I'm working on right now about it, a short video, like 2 minutes, which is very difficult for me to do anything in 2 minutes. But I've got this event.
There was a joke there that I decided not to go for.
Oh God, I can imagine. I can literally imagine several jokes. So I'm not even going to go there. The free and equal debate. And by the way, I'm not picking on the people who put the debate together. I'm not picking on the libertarians. I am picking on the socialists and the Green Party. But it reminded me of, you've heard of Warhammer 40,000, 40K?
Yeah.
Okay. Sci-fi, super future, grim, science fiction. It reminded me, as soon as these people started talking, they reminded me of characters of Nurgle. That would be Jasmine. Jasmine, you're Nurgle. And Claudia de la Cruz, guess what? You're the Tau. Jill Stein, you're the Eldar. Now, people who actually know about this, the lore behind this, know what these things are. Nurgle is a putrid, diseased, rotting god. The Tau are communists. They're blue communists in space. The Eldar are all about their feelings. They're all evil. They're all evil, but that's what they are, and that's what was on the stage.
I'm trying to wrap my head around the whole blue communists in space.
No, that's the Tau. They're also weak as hell, and everyone smacks them around. They're useless. But you're going to see it because Henry Cavill is doing a TV show, and he's a fan of it, so it might actually be good. Unlike Halo, this actually might be good, and it'll introduce people to the lore, which is very deep and very big, and I've been into it since the 1980s. So it's people who know the lore know what I've just said. And I'm sure when Jasmine and Claudia de la Cruz and Jill Stein look up the lore, have someone tell them about it, they'll be appropriately pissed at me. And I don't care. Because it wasn't a compliment. None of that was a compliment.
Yeah, well, just because I've heard of something doesn't mean I actually grasp it. I don't think I've watched a network television program probably in over a year.
It's been longer than that for me. It's been at least 15
I think
years.
the last thing that we binge watched was Yellowstone.
Game of Thrones.
And then we stopped. And we haven't watched anything else.
Game of Thrones. And considering season 8, I'm really sad that I did that. But I mean, I've watched all of Game of Thrones. That was it. And I don't watch, I watch anime, I play video games, and I follow the news. Speaking of other news, there's the news that came out today. So unless if people in the chat want to ask, and I'm going to be covering this in a video and also on Sunday. So if you want to ask about the debate yesterday, I'll be happy to talk more about it. But really, it was a joke. It was a farce. And literally, the libertarians were the thing lifting it up. But separate of that, there's news that's out now that Biden, because we're talking about Palestine, we're talking about Gaza, we're talking about Hamas and terrorism. He's sending food over to Gaza. You're feeding terrorists.
Now here's what's amazing about
this.
They
killed Americans.
All right, aside from the fact that they're doing that.
Yeah.
We could send the food by truck.
We could.
And drive it right through Israel.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to stop it.
Right.
Nobody would do anything to it. The Israelis
you can't do that from Egypt. You can't do that from Egypt.
No, you can't. No, but we can do it from Israel. We can send it by boat.
Yeah.
And we could get it there. We could do anything we want to. They're going to airdrop it. Why? Because the airdrop makes for a spectacular photo op. It's this trying to dun, 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 show the might. The might. Oh, look at how generous we are. Look at the bales and bales and bales of food that were dropping out of airplanes. It's like the Berlin airlift. They're trying to capture that moment. Look at how magnanimous the American people are, how wonderful our president is. We're doing this. We're dropping all this humanitarian aid. There's other things they could drop that could probably benefit this conflict a lot faster than food.
Well, I honestly don't send anything. First of all, you're aiding and abetting terrorists that killed Americans, 34
and
Americans.
that are still holding Americans prisoner, and that will not offer proof of life. They will not offer have the names of how many are maybe still alive. They will not offer anything.
And we know they're being sexually tortured and abused.
And we're paying them.
Yes.
Whatever happened to we don't negotiate with terrorists?
Not under the Biden administration.
We're just paying them.
Well, under the Biden administration, that's what we do. He did that for Brittany Griner. He did that for the 6 Americans being held by Iran. He's more than willing to negotiate. He's willing to buy people back because he wants to win his election. It is aggravating, and that's the problem. This is the reason why the Houthis are still fighting. This is why Hezbollah thinks they can attack us. This is the reason why we have problems with France right now, starting to back China and escalating the war with the Ukraine and Russia, because there's no leadership from Biden. No one takes him seriously. No one fears him. No one respects him.
Have you seen the Italians this past week? The parody videos that they've put out there?
No, that I haven't seen.
Oh my God. They got some Italian actor.
Yeah.
To put on a Biden hair plug wig and the big droopy earlobes and the disheveled suit. And he clumsily walks around the stage falling over everything.
That's Biden.
And he can't string together more than 4 words in a legible sentence. His aides running in and out of screen, constantly having to correct him, redirect them, point them in one direction or another direction. They're lampooning him up one side and down the other. It is hysterical. It's hysterical because it's true.
Yes.
It is accurate. It is accurate. And then you have these people out there trying to say, oh, he's fine. The man, well, his physical state is one thing. The man, it's elder abuse as far as his physical state.
Yes.
The guy can walk up a flight of stairs. They're giving him adrenaline shots every day to try. Every time he's got to walk outside, they're giving him some sort of adrenaline or something. They're got to make this guy's heart explode at some point or another. But what they're doing to show, but again, but the one thing that the Italians did that I noticed and I picked up on the translation, they picked up on something I've been saying. They're not making him sound incompetent. They're making him sound malicious. That the decisions that he's making are not because he's mentally, screwed up, or because he's, deficient one way or another. If he was deficient one way or another, it would be the people that are pulling the strings that are still telling him what to say and making them do what they want him to do, regardless of how deficient he is. The decisions that are being made are all coming from a point of malice towards the United States. It's all for the willful and purposeful destruction.
Well, it seems like
they picked up on it because they're like, listen, there's no way it doesn't. If this guy was so incompetent that they were doing this, the people in the administration would have stopped them. They would have done something to try and rein him in. They're doing what he wants them to do because that's what they want done. I'm gonna get going a little bit early. My neck is screaming in pain right now. I can't even turn my head. I just want to say, what's that guy? Lloyd, what's his face? The Department of Defense guy.
Lloyd Austin.
Mm-hmm. Hey, from me to you, Lloyd. Listen. Having had cancer in my family and having personally dealt with a lot of this stuff, I am glad that you've recovered, or at least are on the road to recovery. I am extremely happy that the medical professionals in this country are able to treat you successfully. And I hope to God that you are either find yourself in remission, completely cured, and stay that way for the remainder of your miserable fucking life. Because you, sir, are a piece of shit. You are a piece of garbage. For you to sit there on Capitol Hill and give yourself a free pass for disappearing for days on end while America is in 3 conflicts, while America has all young men and women fighting in 3 conflicts around this world during the most volatile period of time since World War II, for you to completely disappear so you can get treatment and then not give yourself any reason whatsoever why you feel that you should be deemed punishable. But you decided that over 8,000 American service people who volunteered their lives, who wrote their name on a blank check that had an objection to an experimental vaccine, that you would strip them of whatever stripes or bars or whatever they had on them and dishonorably discharge them. For you to do that, give yourself an excuse while you let everybody else fry, you're a piece of shit. You don't deserve the uniform that you're wearing. You don't deserve the name honorable in front of anything. And as a matter of fact, if anything, you don't even deserve the salute from a private in any rank form in our military. You are a disgrace to the uniform. You're a disgrace to the oath. And you're a disgrace. The next time you're at Arlington, I want you to look out at that field of crosses and stars that adorn those fields for every single American that gave their lives for this country. For you to stand there and for you to spit on their brethren the way you have, so you can walk above the fray like you are the holy one. You're disgusting. You're a piece of crap. And I don't think impeaching you would be even remotely justifiable punishment for what you deserve. You're a piece of shit.
No, I understand completely. And I feel pretty much the same way about Lloyd Austin. I have no sympathy for him whatsoever, because he knew what he was doing. And we have systems, multiple systems built up just for this kind of eventuality, so that America would not be deprived of our Secretary of Defense when we most need them. And that's really insane. That and the Biden administration just tells you how inept they are, that he was gone as long as he was without anyone knowing that no one was doing the job. But again, this is another reason why we see in France is now, people may recall, I've been talking about this for a while. Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, has been insisting since last year, 2023, actually longer, but it was March of 2023, when he started telling the rest of the European Union, Germany and the rest, that they need to divest from America. They need to move away from America, abandon America, especially under the Biden administration, and become buddies and side up with China. So he's made his decision. He wants to be more aligned with the communists. He thinks the communists are going to win. He wants to be part of the Communist Party. And he's been moving France there.
You know what he wants? He wants to be UN Secretary General.
Well, more than that. He wants more than that, because now, not only did he do that, but he's doing this because there's a power vacuum, and he wants to rise up to the top. And so he then followed that up just this week and said, hey, we should send NATO troops, which means United States troops. 80% of the troops in NATO are U.S. troops. He wants to send NATO troops, U.S. troops, into the Ukraine. Initially, he wanted them to fight, to be combat troops fighting Russia. In other words, France wanted to send Americans to fight a war where France wasn't going to lose anything. The U.S. would lose things. We would lose our people. Ukrainians are obviously losing, but France would just be in charge. They'd be able to order our people around and let them die. This is what he wanted. When he got pushback, because Germany said, you're out of your mind. You're trying to start a more than a regional war. This is insane. Don't do this. We're not moving forward with that. What was the response? Macron, right after that was yesterday, Thursday, he comes out and he says, hey, no, you misunderstood. When I say combat troops, I meant non-combat troops. So instead, what is he trying to convince us? Vietnam. This is exactly how we got into Vietnam. And this is what I was warning about when we saw that we gave the tanks and the F-16s to Ukraine to fight in this war. Well, guess what? That means we need to send in non-combat troops to maintain the vehicles, to repair them, to teach people how to use them. That's our troops who are going to be under fire from Russia, because they're mixed in with the Ukrainian troops, and bullets don't pick who they hit. They hit everyone. And so this is how France and the United States got into Vietnam. Oh, we sent in our, what did they call them back in the day? Advisors. Yeah, we sent in our advisors, which is our military. We were training the troops. Our advisors got killed. So we sent in more troops to protect our advisors as they were training and helping the indigenous troops. And then we needed more people to protect those people. And the next thing you know, we're in the middle of a war that was undeclared, but yet everyone is fighting.
It's a police action.
Yeah, it was a police action. And we're going to have the same. And now France wants us to do the same thing, except they're going to be in charge. The French, who haven't won a war since Napoleon, they got their asses kicked by Ethiopia. No one's afraid of France. No one is afraid. No one's afraid of Biden. Hell, right just above him is France. They've lost everywhere in every fight they've had, and they want to be in charge of U.S. troops fighting a battle that everyone knows is being lost and no one wants to be involved with. This is stupid. And Biden's just like, oh, I just don't want to talk about that. No. We need leadership. This is what happens when you have no leaders. Everyone's going to try and say, well, I'm the leader. Well, no one else is going to take charge. I'll do it. And we get Macron. I mean, he is like half a step above Trudeau. It is idiocy, ineptitude, and the worst choices we could possibly make. And yet this is what's going. But are you surprised? We also have Lloyd Austin disappearing for a week.
And you think that would have popped up somewhere in the PDB too. But that's Presidential Daily Briefing for those of you who don't follow along with the nuclear football.
Yeah. You would think it has to come up. It's not like he's not constantly taking international calls.
Where's the big black guy? Where is he? Where's the big black guy? Because that's what Joey calls him.
Probably. I would not be surprised if that's how Biden refers to him, because he's just insane. And no, right. Macron did not want to throw the French Foreign Legion. One, he can't. The Foreign Legion is actually separate of France. They're independent. They're more like mercenaries. So he can't throw them at the battle. But more importantly, he doesn't want, that's why he wants to use NATO troops, because it means that he'd send in, out of every 1,000 soldiers he throws in there, 5 of them would be French and 900 of them would be American.
Listen, I'm gonna duck out. Hey, listen, if one of you folks over there in the Musketeer Club wants to jump on camera to jump into the fray, Jan, you know where to find the invite. Dale, if you want, Michael send one out to you. You guys can sit and chat for a while. I'm gonna go slather myself with about 4 gallons of Aspercream and take a hot shower, maybe set myself on fire like that guy from the Air Force or something. And
Yeah.
I'm just going to be protesting a broken pinion post. Oh, stupidest thing. Everything on the truck was perfect. Everything in the truck was perfect. One tiny little bolt. One tiny little bolt. The blue Loctite was not Loctited enough. Came loose and the whole thing shattered. So, could have been worse. It could have been worse. But I'm gonna get out of here. Maybe I'll jump into the comment section whilst I'm sitting in my bathtub. Besides, I got a long day tomorrow. As you guys may have seen from the YouTube channel, my nephew Vinny has been here from New York for the last couple of years. He's been going to NASCAR school, and he recently graduated, and he is now going to be heading back to New York to follow his new career path. And tomorrow is his departure dinner and his last trip to the range with Uncle Frank. So we're going to be breaking in his brand new Ruger American rifle, chambered in .243, with his with his brand new scope, courtesy of Uncle Frank. And we're gonna do a little range report, me and Vinny, tomorrow night. Then my cousin will be in there doing a range report with his brand new acquisition. Everybody got brand new guns today, but me. I didn't get one.
Look at what you got behind you.
Yeah. Ow! You made me turn my head. Oh, I hate you. Meanwhile, I don't have to look behind me. All I have to do is look at my screen. I got the monitor in front of me. I can see what's behind me.
So why did you turn around?
Because I'm an idiot. Because I'm a painful idiot. All right, listen, everybody. I want you guys have a great weekend. Be safe, shoot straight. Catch up with the range report on probably Sunday or Monday. We're going to debut a couple brand new videos for you, and hopefully I'll actually be able to do some of the shooting. We're being revisited by the Smith & Wesson 500 Magnum this weekend. Nice. We're going to be trying to get some low light fireballs. New flash suppressor. All right, so Vass, I'm going to leave us in your capable hands, and everybody have a great weekend.
All right. So, as everyone can see, I've been updating a little bit on YouTube, making sure everyone can see this. So this is going to be interesting, folks. There's so much. It is annoying to me, so much of the craziness that we've seen just in the last week. And I think we all can recognize that. I mean, when we're talking about feeding the terrorists and Hamas, that's insanity. When we have the Socialist Party of America, when we have the Green Party of America that are literally putting up candidates that are admitting, they are quoting themselves as being racist and ageist and sexist, that they want to take away all of your property, that they want to redistribute everything you own. And God forbid you happen to be white. They really want to go crazy on you. In fact, one of the people at the Free and Equal debate, I believe it was Jasmine Stewart, who said that Jasmine Sherman, who said that she wanted to deny white people health care. This is crazy. Crazy, folks. And this is what's gaining popularity as we speak. This is what we are facing in this nation when we don't go out to vote. I want to be very clear about this. The only reason why we are seeing these issues rise up, where France thinks that they can be the leader of Europe and the United States and to shove our troops around the world and throw them in harm's way, it's because there's no leadership from Joe Biden. The reason why we have the Socialist Party, the Democratic Socialists of America, why we have the Green Party with their racism coming out and saying, hey, we're racist, it's perfectly fine, and no one's going to call them out for it, it's because we have no leadership that's coming from the top down, that we're told you're the bad person for calling that out. You are the problem because you should be silent and obey and keep your head down. None of this stuff is constitutional. None of this stuff is something that France doesn't get the option to use U.S. troops for France's military goals, period. Why are we even having this conversation? Should not be happening. We are wasting money. Yeah, and Dow puts up a great point. According to Gemini, remember, Gemini, Google, white people are a figment of the world's collective imagination. They are actively trying to wipe out an entire race of people. Now, you can be someone who says, well, white people are evil and all that. Guess what? After they deal with the white people, who goes next? Because if they can eliminate an entire history, an entire people, which is what the Democrats say they're trying to protect. They're trying to protect history and people. Well, you're wiping out the history of an entire people. You're demonizing and dehumanizing an entire people. Why should I trust? If I see you actively doing that, why in the world should I trust that when it comes to the next race or the next group of people or the next religion or indigenous group, why do I think you're going to respect them any more than the last one you just destroyed? Oh, because this one is darker skinned? And that means what? If you're willing to do it to one group of people, why do I think you're going to stop there? Because obviously this is about power, not power of the people, but power of the elites, of a few, of a very restricted group of individuals. And thank goodness in the United States, unlike socialist nations, unlike every other nation in the world, the people here in America get to have the power when we vote, when we abide by the Constitution, the laws that we have agreed to, then we have the power. And these groups of individuals, these elitists with their radical ideologies, do not get to take control. And that's incredibly important. And that's one of the reasons why the Liberty First Foundation exists. It's one of the reasons why we have every Friday night at 9 p.m., we have a conversation with you talking about the constitutionality of these things. Because the mainstream media isn't going to take 2 seconds to be there. Last night, the New Yorker magazine had a reporter at the event. I guarantee you they're not going to say the same thing I just did. They're not going to be honest with you. Their reporter was the same guy who went out to Michigan to cover the uncommitted vote in Michigan. Obviously, Joe Biden won the Michigan primary. What a shock and amazement there. Like there was anyone else on the ballot. There wasn't. And of course, we know that Donald Trump won in Michigan because Nikki Haley isn't a real candidate. Not anymore. Not since she lost 2-1 in Nevada, when she lost, New Hampshire, when she lost 2-1 to none of the above. When she lost to absolutely no one, leaving an empty vacant space, and she lost by 2-1 margins, she stopped being a candidate. The race is over. It's Trump versus Biden, and RFK is in the wings. Maybe there's the libertarian candidate as well. That's it. That's the race, folks. And we need to focus on that. We need to start asking them rather than saying, what are you going to do in the next debate? Oh, my God, you're going to be on the next ballot, Super Tuesday. It's all done already. That's wasting our time. Oh, well, this one hyper small faction of the Democratic Party is upset with you. 58% of Democrats don't want Biden. 60% of Americans don't want Biden. Why do we care that there are a group of individuals from the Middle East in Michigan who are saying as a voting bloc that they're not going to vote for Biden? Well, neither is everyone else. They're not special. Just because they're upset, well, everyone's upset. Look at what inflation has been like. Look at what the quality of life has been like. Look at how safe you are today versus where you were 4 years ago. There are a dozen reasons why people are upset. Just because you're in Michigan and you happen to be from another country and you're an immigrant doesn't make you more special. But the New Yorker thought so. So they sent out a reporter to cover that and say, oh my God, isn't this outrageous? Oh my God, what is Joe Biden going to do that a 1% of the Democratic Party, not even a 0.5% of the Democratic Party of 100 million people in America, not even 1% of them decided that they didn't want to vote for Joe Biden in a primary, but they are willing to vote for Joe Biden in the election. As much as they want to complain, every single one of them is going to vote Joe Biden. They're going to vote D straight down the line when it comes to November because they believe in never Trump. So this is meaningless. It's not even showboating. It's nothing because they haven't stopped giving money to Democratic Party, which is Joe Biden. They haven't put up a better candidate or a secondary candidate. No, they're not supporting another candidate. There is this guy, Dean Phillips. There's Marianne Williamson. There's RFK Jr. They could be supporting them. They could be giving them money. They're not. Do you notice Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar? They haven't said, oh, take your money, take your support, and give it to another candidate. No, they said, just write in uncommitted. By the way, send your check into the DNC. By the way, November, you're still going to vote for him. But now you're just going to say, I'm pissed off at you. Okay, so who cares? It's like the black vote in America. Oh, you're upset with Joe Biden. Yeah, but you're voting for him, so who cares? Democratic Party doesn't care. what was it? Stephen A. Smith on ESPN in 2017, as I recall, told everybody, if black people want to see something change in America, don't be like Jasmine Sherman, where you go and you say, hey, I'm a racist and I think we should kill all the white people. No. That's not going to get you an answer. You know what the answer is? Vote Republican. If 80% of black people voted Republican in one election, just one time, Democrats would be jumping through hoops with fire burning in fire to try and make sure that they could pass everything that blacks in America would want, anything and everything to get their favor back so that they would never have to go through that again. Guaranteed. And not once will you see that happen. You don't hear any of the so-called black leaders saying that, yeah, vote Republican just once. Vote third party just once. Not even willing to do that. It's really surprising to me. So, I mean, that was something, those were two big things that really pissed me off this week. Those are the big things that pissed me off this week. There's other things that are going on, of course. And I'm just looking at that. So, let me look here. We've got, of course, you heard about Illinois has now jumped onto the bandwagon along with Connecticut, New Hampshire. No, it's Colorado and Maine. Let me get my states right. Colorado and Maine. Illinois has jumped on, trying to deny President Trump the ability to be on the ballot. I've seen reports that said the judge who issued this order is a judge who normally handles traffic issues, which is crazy. Why he's involved in this, I don't know. But it seems to be the same basis. Again, there is no underlying crime. But they're trying to get away with all these things. These are all examples of the overreach of government, of elitists who are telling you, don't think, just obey. We have a plan. You're going to follow it. And it doesn't matter that it's not going to work for you. You're not supposed to think about that. You're not supposed to question, this doesn't actually work. Bidenomics doesn't work. No one is better off. Oh, we got to worry about, it was Jill Stein last night. Oh, America is failing on climate change and we have to do so much more. We lead the world in the reduction of greenhouse gases. The world. All of Europe and England combined do not equal what America reduces in a year. In fact, you can multiply Europe and England by 2, and they still wouldn't equal the amount of greenhouse gas reduction that the United States has done. New York State has done more greenhouse gas reduction than Europe and England. And you're telling me that suddenly the world's going to end because we're not doing enough? How much more can we do? We're not the problem. We're not the problem. You are not the problem. They keep telling you you're the problem because you're daring to not do what they tell you to do, because you have your own feelings, not their feelings. And that isn't constitutional. That isn't what America is about. That isn't their right. They don't have a right to institute their feelings onto your life, to institute their ideology onto you and your children. And we have to fight against that. Jan says, the judge in the Illinois case made the judgment, but also stated due to being in Supreme Court. It makes no sense because it was a political statement. Because it isn't about actually having the legal right. It's about politicking. It's what did they call it? Advocating from the bench, creating law as a judge. This is something they couldn't get away with in Congress. This is something they couldn't get away with in their own state government. But the way you get around that is if a judge says so, well, then it's now the law de facto. They're trying to usurp power from you. And that's really, really terrifying. And we need to call that out because that is the problem that we are facing right now. I mean, it's like with illegal immigration, which continues to be a problem. Do you notice how the problems that are consistent disappear out of the news media whenever it's not convenient? When was the last time you heard gun control? When they're all screaming, we have to pass more gun control. We had to pass more gun control. When was the last time you heard about that? It's not politically expedient because they don't have an example they can abuse to scare you to believe whatever they want to tell you. And what do we hear? The same thing we've heard for the last 50 years. Oh, you shouldn't have a gun. Yeah, but criminals don't care. Criminals don't care that legal, law-abiding citizens are being denied their firearm ownership, their Second Amendment right that shall not be infringed. Criminals don't care. That doesn't stop them. If you took all the guns away from all of the legal individuals, you're not affecting the crime rate. Well, other than helping it, the same number of criminals are still the criminals. They still don't follow the law. They still have their guns. And no one ever asks, and I would love to hear this in one of the presidential debates, because I'm listening to it last night. I listen to the debates all the time. No one ever says, okay, and so what law is actually going to stop criminals from committing crime? How are you going to do that? How are you going to stop a criminal who doesn't follow the law to follow the law? How do you do that? Because none of the gun control laws work. If they did, we wouldn't need to make another gun control law. If any of them worked, we would just have that same law in every state. They don't work. So why do we keep saying, okay, well, we'll just do another version of the same idea? Same thing with our budget. Oh, we're fighting over the budget deal that's going on right now, which includes funding for the southern border, funding for Ukraine, funding for Israel, and roundabout also funding for Hamas, which makes no sense. But this budget deal, they're fighting over this, and they're like, we're fighting for you. We're going to make sure we get we already know that the budget is going to exceed $35 trillion. That was decided a year ago. We already know that. There's already 7% inflation baked into the numbers. We already know this. And that means you're going to be 7% poorer in 2024 than you were in 2023. That's a guarantee. Why? Because we're going to spend $35 trillion. That's the cap. That's the debt ceiling. And we already know in January of 2025, we're going to have to increase it again. That was the deal. That was the agreement. You're not supposed to think about that. What that means? Guaranteed inflation. That's what it means. It means if you're poor, you're going to be poorer by January 2025. No matter who wins the election, on January of 2025, you will have lost 7% of your wealth, at least. That's before any other form of inflation. Is that legal? Yes. You know why? Because you didn't vote. Because you didn't complain to your congressman, to your senator. You obeyed. They said, oh, well, we've got a plan. And you said, okay, what's the plan? More inflation. You want more inflation, but that doesn't make sense. Don't worry, it'll be okay. It'll work out. You just don't understand. Listen to Joe Biden. You just don't understand. It's all okay. It's great. Don't worry about it. No, I am going to worry about it. Yeah, I am going to complain. And yes, I have reached out to my local congressman, and that would be Richie Torres. Used to be Claudia Tenney, used to be Mark Molinaro. Now I'm in New York. It's Richie Torres. And I do reach out to them, and I do complain to them. Do they listen? No, not at all. But we have to take action because we are losing our grip. The more that we have these factions, if 100,000 people in Michigan are all it takes to have the entire Democratic Party, and in particular, the President of the United States, Joe Biden, and shift his political ideology to cause him, notice, Joe Biden this week in Michigan, 100,000 of people in Michigan said they voted uncommitted. They said they don't like Joe Biden and what he's doing with Gaza. They don't care about the Americans that got killed. They don't care about the Americans that are being tortured as we speak. They're not asking for those hostages to come back home to be safe and sound. They don't care about any of that. They want support for the actual terrorists that killed the Americans. They want the support and benefit to go to the actual terrorists that have kidnapped American citizens and are sexually torturing them. That's where they want it. And Joe Biden saw 100,000 votes that went against him. And today he's sending out planes of food to Gaza to those terrorists. If it only takes 100,000, that is a sliver of the voting. There's 170 million voters in the United States. 100,000 people are all it takes to take millions, tens of millions, if not billions of dollars, and to shift it, to change the power in the world, and to help terrorism. You should be terrified. If Joe Biden is willing to capitulate for 100,000 people in one state, basically one city, what else is he willing to do? What happens when the real pressure comes in? And you're not part of that pressure. You're not part of the influence group because you were told, just sit back and wait. Don't worry. Just listen, obey. Let the politicians do it on their own. They're not supposed to do it on their own. Read the Constitution. I know they don't want you to read the Constitution. Read the Constitution. They serve you, not the other way around. They take their lead from you. You are the constituent. You get to determine what they're going to do, not the other way around. And when they tell you, just trust us. No, I don't trust you. You're not supposed to be leading. You're not a leader. You're a follower. Members of Congress are followers. They follow their constituents, where the constituents lead them, whether they like it or not. That's their job. That's what they're supposed to do. And somehow we have twisted the system backwards. So we're 180 degrees backwards. And now we've got neo-nobles in Congress that are ignoring the Constitution and abusing the public. You may disagree with me, but tell me how I'm wrong, folks. And again, it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, or if you're a Republican, a Libertarian, you could be a conservative, hell, even the socialists. Tell me how I'm wrong. I'm looking at the chat right now. Please tell me, where did I get it wrong? Because show me where in the Constitution it says Congress is going to lead you. No, they say Congress is going to follow you. That there is the representation. They represent you. You don't represent them. They represent you. You vote for them. You tell them what to do. You vote for the laws, and they represent your voice in Congress. That's the job. Represent you. And when we break that system, everything falls apart. That's why we have more corruption. That's why we have more dehumanization. That's why our politics are falling apart. Our infrastructure is falling apart, because we're paying attention to 100,000 political activists rather than the issues that are affecting America. Joe Biden could have taken the same money that he just sent to help fund Hamas, a terrorist organization that is actually actively harming Americans as we speak. He could have been feeding the homeless with that. He could be feeding children who are poor and don't have enough food. He could be feeding our homeless veterans with that food. The money's there, the food's there. If you're going to print the money, at least print it for something that's useful. Does anyone disagree with me on that? Does anyone disagree with me on that? Oh, but Mike, we have to give it to Gaza. Why? Why do we have to give it to the Palestinians? Why do we have to give it to Gaza? Especially since they committed an act of war against us. They knowingly committed an act of war against us. They killed our citizens, our civilian citizens, out of the blue, without a declaration of war. They just ran on over and killed them and captured them, tortured them, sexually abused them out of the blue. Why do we have to give them food? Why do we have to give them money and comfort? If I went over to your house and I punched you in the face, and then I said, and by the way, make dinner for me, would you do it? 9 out of 10, you're going to punch me back, because that's the normal reaction, because that makes sense. You're not going to say, oh yeah, here, let me open the door, come on into my house, let me go and start cooking dinner for you now. No, you're the aggressor. Whether or not I could beat you, you decided to pick a fight with me. So why am I obligated to help them? Why are these people who are obligated to obey the American people, why are we suddenly submitting our will? 330 million people are now being hijacked by 100,000 people in Michigan because Joe Biden is afraid he might lose by 100,000 votes. That's what really this is all about. Joe Biden is afraid he could lose, even though every single poll, 95% of all the polls in the last 9 months have said Joe Biden is going to lose, either lose by 1% or as much as by 6%, but he's going to lose. Every single poll, 95% of them have said Joe Biden is going to lose. And he's worried about 100,000 votes because that might, in his best case scenario, might be the difference between losing and winning. Maybe. But by the way, that vote's not going to be in Michigan. He needs 100,000 people in Ohio, not Michigan. That being said, he's desperate to get every vote that he can possibly get. So he's willing to throw the nation under the bus. He is willing to help terrorists to kill and harm American citizens actively right now, real time. And we're not supposed to talk about it. And you're not supposed to say, wait a minute, but the Constitution says he is to protect and serve the United States and its citizens. He is subordinate to the majority will of the American people via our representatives. It's not his job to play politics. That's not part of the job. Maybe you think I'm wrong. I don't think you do. Because we're talking about the Constitution. Not your preference, not your feeling, the Constitution. And the Constitution doesn't give him the power to hijack America for his political ambitions. That's not the job. In fact, the Constitution is built to deny him that right. The Constitution limits the government, not the people. So every time someone's saying, you don't understand, well, it's your job to make me understand. Take the time. Don't spend 30 seconds on CNBC. Don't go and have a three-word quote in the New York Times. That's not enough. If you're telling me I don't understand, then get onto YouTube, get onto Rumble, get onto Twitter, spend 3 hours and tell me what I don't understand if you think I don't understand. You can't use the excuse, oh, well, I can't get to the public. Yes, every politician can. And every one of those politicians that say you just don't understand, take the time. They have access to you, free access. You don't have to pay any money. Go onto YouTube, go onto Rumble, go onto Twitter, go onto Facebook, do a live stream, spend 3 hours explaining why we don't understand. What are the consequences? Talk to us. That's your job. That is literally their job by the Constitution. Don't just tell me, oh, just stop complaining. No, screw you. Do your job. Tell me why I'm wrong. And they won't do it. Jan was talking about the budget, and she mentions, what about that ridiculous continuing resolution? Yet again, we still don't have a budget. They keep pushing it out piece by piece by piece. Well, again, Jan, that's because they don't care. Because we already know the end result. And if they just came out on January 1st of 2023 and they said, oh, by the way, there's going to be 7% more inflation, period. Doesn't matter. We're jacking up the prices. We're going to spend the money and you've got more inflation. You would probably not vote for the parties that were involved in that. Third parties would probably do a hell of a lot better if they were just honest. But they want to fortify the 2024 election. They want to get themselves reelected. And that's why they won't be honest with you and say, well, no, we're going to spend the money. Because the money's already spent. We already know the debt ceiling is going higher in 2025. We already know it's going to be $35 trillion. We know it is going up. So the question isn't, are we losing money? Are we seeing inflation? Are the poor becoming more poor? Yes. Does it have to happen? No. That's because of corruption and government abuse. It's because people are being silent and not telling the politicians, you can't do that. That's as simple as it is, folks. Just write the letter and say, Congressman, you work for me. You can't do that. And if you think we should do that, explain it to me. Go onto YouTube and explain it. Spend the next 3 hours doing that. It's your job. You get paid $200,000 a year, tax-free, out of my pocket, out of your pocket. The least these politicians could do, once a week, spend 3 hours, explain to me. Tell me why I got it wrong. Tell me why we need to spend this money in this amount in the way that we are spending it. Am I asking for too much? Are you asking for too much to tell them to do their job? I don't think so. Peter mentions that there's a State of the Union address. Where is it? President Biden lost his calendar. No, it's coming up. The State of the Union is going to be coming up. It should, and it normally is done by now, usually in the month of February, but he is planning to do it in March. Why is he waiting that long? I don't know. There's no reason to, other than what he has to say is going to be so depressing, so negative, that he wants to distract people, to limit the access people have to it, to make sure that people will forget about it while he's going through this primary process, to guarantee that he gets on the ballots, enough ballots that he will win the primary and that he will be running in 2024 as the candidate. That's why. That's why I believe he's delayed it, because he knows he's going to have bad news for America. And there's just no way to hide it. And no matter how many times he says, don't worry, you just don't understand. People do understand. You understand your paycheck. You understand the bills that you get every month. You know how much money you're spending. Yes, Dow. Dow says, the administration is hoping we forgot the State of the Union was supposed to happen. Yeah, because the news media isn't harping about this every minute of every day. Let's see what else we wanted to talk about. China issues a warning about the risks of nuclear war. Seriously, China is not going to have a nuclear war. China, Russia, they're not going to have a nuclear war. Mark my words, folks. China and they will not put out Iran will use nuclear weapons. Absolutely. North Korea will absolutely use nuclear weapons without a doubt. China and Russia, no, they're not that stupid, because they know that the consequences of that hurt them as much as it might hurt anyone else. That they're shooting themselves in the foot and in the thigh and in the chest if they use a nuclear weapon. They know that. Now, Iran doesn't care because they're religious fanatics. And North Korea doesn't care because they're just crazy. North Korea is just crazy. So they don't care. They're fanatics. They're radicals. So they'll do it because what do they got to lose? I mean, how much worse can it get for North Korea? Most of their population, 70% of their population are starving as is. How much worse does it get? Iran, they're already the bad guys. And they're already willing, they've already promised that they're going to kill everyone in the world that doesn't believe whatever the Ayatollah says they should be believing. So they're religious fanatics. They don't care. They think that they go to heaven and get 72 virgins each, every one of them that die. They are religious fanatics. So they don't care. They're not motivated by the same things everyone else is, but Russia cares, China cares. And they're not stupid. They'll use the threat, the fear, because they know Americans have been trained to be terrified. Mind you, the world should be terrified of us, not the other way around. We make the world quake. We won 2 world wars. The United States is. We won the global wars twice. We have fought in every country in the world. We are the most powerful. We are the most, in terms of having freedom and money in quality of life and military, we beat everyone in the world. No one has all of that at once. No one. And we've had it for longer than anyone has had even most of those things all at the same time. And we've had them all. Everyone's terrified. Think about it. The world was quaking when 9/11 happened because Americans, by and large, of every political faction, every kind of ideology, every color of skin, were coming out and saying, we need to glass whatever country did this. We were talking on September 12th, 2001, we were talking about nuking to oblivion whatever country did this to us. When we found out it was in the Middle East, the majority of Americans at that moment were willing to drop nukes and turn the entire Middle East to glass. The world is terrified of us for good reason. Because when we have to defend ourselves, we don't just defend it. We overkill on defense. We overkill on the attack, which is part of the reason why we're safe. But we're told we're the bad people for that. No, that's called prevention. We have a big stick. We will use the big stick. Don't give us a reason to use the big stick. And this is why China and Russia won't use nukes first. They will never use nukes first because the reaction is American overkill. We will go ballistic on them. We will get stupid about using nukes against them. And they know it. Even with a milquetoast, inept president like Joe Biden, we will go ballistic. And they know it. So they won't use nukes first. They risk too much. They lose in this outcome if they use a nuke first. They'll scare people. They'll terrify the average person who's more afraid of the threat of violence than the actual violence. At least this is the way I think about it. Maybe other people who are watching say, Mike, well, you're wrong. I disagree with you. Okay, fantastic. But I don't think I am wrong. Which is why it's so important that people are told your vote doesn't matter and you shouldn't talk to your members of Congress. You should just obey. Just listen to them. Instead of the other way around. Let me see. I know there was some other stuff I wanted to talk about tonight, and I was hoping some of the other guys would have some stuff, but let me go on for a little bit longer here. By the way, folks, if this is the first time that you are seeing us, normally it's not just me. I'm doing like a short version of my Sunday live stream right now, and I thank the Liberty First Foundation, Mike Marshall, and Frank Johnson for giving me the opportunity to have an extra day, and today is mostly by myself. Usually I'm talking with them. And we talk about the constitutional aspect of all of this. So I'm not really talking about the politics. That'll be on Sunday live stream. I'll be talking about the politics and how the politics affects you. Today, I'm really talking about the constitutionality. We're talking about what is legal and what is the limit of the power of government and how we react to that, which is often the conversation here on Friday nights at 9 to 11. This is what we normally talk about, is the limit of the power of government, the power of the individual. And you don't need to be part of the Socialist Party. You don't have to be part of the Green Party to be able to talk about the power of the people. You don't have to be a Democrat or a progressive, because quite honestly, regardless of your political affiliation, as an American citizen, you are the people that have the power. That's why the Constitution was made. That's why it's worded the way it is. It's often considered a negative document, a negative against the government. Everything in the Constitution limits the government, not the people. It says the government can't do things. It doesn't say what people can do anything they want. Whatever we agree to, we can do because we're Americans. Which is why the world gets so scared. Because when Americans agree, we change the world. We change the map. When the Constitution is being used to its fullest, when Americans are paying attention and are involved, and we are telling our leaders what to do, when we tell them what path we want to take, we change the world. And every single time, it's for the better. Every single time when Americans are united and uniform in our direction, when we're following the Constitution, when we're using the power of our government, the representative democracy that we have, when we use that power, representative republic, when we use that power, what do we see happen? The world improves. That's how we won both world wars. That's how we defeated communism. That's how we fed the world and brought in new innovations that have allowed people to have a higher quality of life. And anyone who tells you, oh, America's bad, they have an agenda. Anyone who wants to tell you that Americans, the American government is just plain evil, that we're the evil of the world, they have an agenda. They want something. They want your power. They want your money. They want your property. They want you to be a slave. Almost every single time. They have an agenda. They want something. And they're not honest enough to tell you, oh, by the way, this is what I want. At the end of that road to socialism, you have nothing, but the elites have everything. You have no power, but the elites have the power. At the end of progressivism, you have nothing, but the elites who are in charge of everything, they get everything. Every single time. Oh, yeah. Thank you for bringing this up, Peter. So remember when we were promised that if you decriminalize hard drugs, if heroin was available for everyone, no one would use heroin. If you decriminalize marijuana, no one would use marijuana. Lie. Oh, this will help drug addicts become sober. Lie. And we knew this. Everyone who was reasonable and logical knew decriminalizing drugs, especially hard drugs like heroin, like fentanyl, like opioids, would not make people better. It would not cut down the number of overdose deaths. It would not stop people from becoming addicts. If anything, it would enable them. But we were promised, trust us. Don't listen to yourself. Don't look at your intuition. Don't look at your life experiences of what you have seen consistently throughout your life. Don't believe any of that. Believe the politicians that promised everything will be better if you just obey. And they're going to make drugs legal. And what happened in Oregon? When they did that social experiment, an experiment throughout the state that affected you and everyone in this country, that hurt you. You may not directly notice it, but in terms of more taxes that had to be spent, more government that was grown, so less freedom, less rights, more addicts that are now running around the rest of the country trying to find the next safe zone that they can go to continue to be high, to go and rob you either as a tourist or to go to your homes and to rob them so that they have enough money for that next high. Gee, this is a dumb idea. It was a dumb idea for Oregon to do it in the first place. And now that that experiment has failed, it's dumb. We get to see the consequences of them being stupid, of telling people, don't worry, don't think about it, don't consider the consequences, just obey. Well, now we have nothing but consequences. Yeah, they're going to take the law, they're going to recriminalize hard drugs, heroin, crack, opioids. Oh my God, why did, no shock. Yeah, these are bad things that lead to bad outcomes. And they're going to recriminalize them, but the damage has already been done. When you are silent, when you are cowed into being silent, oh, you're just one of those MAGA people. You want to enforce the law. Yes, I do. Why? Because I don't want a bunch of drug addicts running around breaking into my house and attacking people because they need money for the next high. I'm sorry. If the choice is, actually, I'm not sorry. If the choice is throw them in jail or help fund them being high, I want them in jail. Many people don't agree with me. That's okay. I'm one person. But that's why we have a system where we get to have this discussion and we can see, okay, but are we willing to accept the consequences? And as we can see in Oregon, they're not willing to accept the consequences. Well, maybe if we had this discussion openly and honestly without being punished by social media, being ostracized, being demonized, if we had this honest, open conversation before they legalized heroin and opioids and crack, maybe we wouldn't be in the position we're in now, where we have all suffered because of what Oregon did, because the social experiment failed. I don't know. Oh, wait a minute. Biden agreed with me in 93. I don't remember. November 19th of 93. I wouldn't be surprised because Joe Biden flip-flops to whatever is going to get him reelected. Like many of these politicians, they will flip-flop on their positions to whatever is the current thing that gets them reelected. So I wouldn't be surprised by that, but I don't remember it. I'll say that. But does this make sense to you folks? Why it's so important? Week after week, the Liberty First Foundation has this roundtable. We have this conversation where we are paying attention to the comments that everyone is making. I do see the comments from Dal and I see them from Jan. I've seen them from others. We're paying attention to you. And we talk about the Constitution, a document that you are told don't read. We don't teach our kids cursive so they can't read the original document anymore because they don't know how to read it. That's terrifying. They don't know what their rights are. They only know what people tell them their rights are. Who's to say they're going to tell you the truth? Why would they tell you the truth? When they can take advantage of you, they can tell you anything. And there's no way to check for these kids. They can't read it. They have to trust what they are told is on that page. When people like you and I, older people, who do know how to read cursive, who do know the Constitution, we've read it, when we tell others, they don't believe us anymore. Why? Because everything's saying, well, no, that's not really. The Second Amendment as a great example. Oh, wait a minute. The Second Amendment is only for hunting. Show me where it says that in the Constitution. Show me in the amendments where it says that. Show me the argument that was made by the founding fathers who had huge arguments about everything that's in the Constitution, everything that's in the Bill of Rights, everything that was in the Declaration of Independence. They had arguments about all of this at length, in detail, considering all of the consequences. Show me the line that says in any of those conversations, in any of those arguments, oh, it should only be hunting. Yeah. Second Amendment, it's only a right to have hunting. You should only be able to hunt with it, or recreational. They didn't even have recreational hunting back then. They didn't have recreational firearms back at the time our nation was created 200 some odd years ago. Didn't exist. And you want to tell me, you want to try and convince me that somehow it's only limited to that? No. The only people who want to convince you that are the people who want to take the power from you. Because if you can't defend yourself from people who are armed, well, then you have to obey. And that's why it's so important. Because if you have to rely on someone else to tell you or to do for you, then you are a slave. It's just that simple, folks. You're a slave. If you don't know what your rights are, you don't have rights. You have whatever someone allows you to be able to do, which makes you a slave. Slaves do what they're allowed to do. Free people choose to do things because they want to. And if you don't know what your rights are, if you haven't read the Constitution, then you are a slave, not a free person. How you use those rights, well, that's up to you. You can use them any way that you want to. I'm not telling you to be a Democrat or a Republican or conservative or a libertarian. That's your choice, your freedom. And no one on the Liberty First Foundation, I will never tell you what you should be. That's your choice. I'll tell you what my opinion is. Absolutely. I'll give you my bias, I have a bias. I'm a conservative Republican. I think it's a great position to have. I have a good friend of mine, Larry Sharp, was hanging out with him yesterday at the third party presidential debate. We were arguing. Larry is a libertarian. We agree and disagree on many issues. And we were talking about it. That's fantastic. I have friends who are members of the Democratic Party and progressive. I have friends of mine who are even more conservative than I am, and those who are less. And I know people who are a part of the establishment of our government. Just because I have a political opinion doesn't mean I'm a good or bad person, and it doesn't mean that I am restricted from knowing anyone of any different type. Male, female, whatever color of skin you want to name, whatever religion, whatever place of origin, they're human beings. And in America, I can talk to all of them. I can disagree with all of them. They can all agree with me. That's because we're free. But if you don't know what the Constitution says, if you don't know what the amendments say, if you're relying on CNN to tell you what's happening and what you now can and can't do, if you're relying on some third party to tell you what your rights are, you don't have rights. You don't have freedom. You're a slave in a very nice, very gilded golden cage. And that cage has the decoration that says, oh, Constitution, freedom, but it's locked and you can't get out. Why? Because the people, the powers that be that are abusing the power, built the cage around you and you just didn't notice. That's what this channel is about, to highlight that we're giving money to Hamas. My problem is, who gave Joe Biden the right to do that? The Constitution, the laws of the United States say we will not aid and abet a nation that is an aggressor to us, to individuals that are aggressors to us, that are fighting us, wars and attacking our people. Well, Hamas attacked our people. So if you want to say, well, Mike, why are you so upset about it? It's not constitutional. It violates the very purpose of our government to aid and abet people who, by their own will, out of the blue, attacked our civilians. I don't care if they were in Israel or if they were in any other part of the world. They're American citizens. You don't get to attack them willy-nilly just because you want to. Sorry, that comes with consequences. And those consequences are devastating, and they should be. The world should quake in fear because you killed an American on purpose in an act of terror. Retribution should be like Zeus throwing down a lightning bolt, because that's what the Constitution allows us to do. But when we stepped away from that and we allowed politicians to tell us how we should feel, politicians telling us how we should react, not the people telling the politicians, go just this far. Here's where the line is. React, but react to this limit, and then tell us what's the consequence. Let's reevaluate at that point. No, they didn't do that. They're telling us this is how you should feel about it. And in Michigan, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, they're telling you, oh, no, you should be embracing those terrorists that killed you out of the blue. You should be embracing the people who are sexually torturing Americans right this second. You should embrace them. Give them more food. Give them your money. Why? Does anyone ever ask that question? Why? They killed my people. Why should I help them? We're not obligated to do it. There's no obligation. Oh, but then, Mike, there's a moral obligation. It's not the Constitution. It's a moral obligation. Well, one, that's subjective. And two, no, I'm not obligated to help the people that attacked me. Mike, isn't it Christian? He smacked you in the face. It's also Christian to defend yourself, especially in the face of someone who has sworn to kill us, who has actively, for decades, tried to kill us, who has succeeded in killing our people. Yeah, I'm not obligated to turn the cheek, and I'm not obligated to feed them. They made a choice. They knew they were trying to swing at a giant, and they knew if the giant reacted, they were going to get smacked down. They knew it and did it anyway. Oh, but maybe we're talking too honestly now. Maybe we're being too fair. But that's what the Constitution is about. Peter's going crazy, going through all of the back data of Joe Biden and Hillary and Clinton talking at the State of the Union, their way that their opinions have changed on that issue alone over the years. And it's just crazy. No, the Constitution is very clear. If Texas wants to have a border to protect the border because the federal government won't protect the border, which is a violation, that's an abuse of their power. It's corruption. We have borders. That's by law. Be one thing if we didn't have a border. We have a border. We have laws about immigration. That's a fact. The laws are there. Everything that people who are being admonished because we want to enforce the law. The law already exists. It's not like, we're just being mean about this. Like every other nation on the face of the earth, we have immigration laws. Every nation has immigration laws. That's a fact. And if we enforce our laws, we're not bad guys. We're following the law. And it helps to protect our nation and our freedom and our rights and our property and our society. And that's constitutional. It's unconstitutional. It is an abuse of power for the federal government to go, well, we're going to pick and choose which law we want. No, you know who picks and chooses laws to enforce? Dictatorships, totalitarian governments, socialist governments. They pick and choose what laws exist and how they get applied. They have tiers of justice. That's a class system. None of that is America. None of that is a constitutional republic. That is America. None of that is freedom. The federal government should be enforcing our borders. And when they don't, and states through the 10th Amendment decide that they will do it, if the federal government won't do it, it is their right and obligation to protect the people. Well, when they do it, then they should, because again, that's their right. That's what the Constitution says. That's their obligation. And if the federal government doesn't like it, then do your job. And you should be supporting that. You should be writing in to the governor, to your members of Congress, to the United States Senate, and to the president, saying, this is the job you should do. Here's the line. I'm not saying expand the border. I'm not even saying that you necessarily have to build a wall. But how about we enforce the limits that we have? How about we enforce the laws as they exist? And if you think the laws are unfair, then more than I tell you right now, go out and tell your congressman and say, put together a bill and present it to Congress to change the law. Don't ignore the law that exists. Make a new law. Change the law. If enough people believe the law needs to be changed, let's change the law. And the reason why progressives and Democrats won't change the law is because nobody, or at least not enough people, there isn't a majority of Americans that agree with them. The majority of Americans agree with me. They agree with the Constitution. They agree with the laws that we have right now. Borders exist. Immigration laws exist. Illegal aliens are a legal and real fact. Period. Protect the border. And the only reason why they have sanctuary cities and sanctuary states is because they believe in destroying the Constitution. And this is how they take your property away from you. This is how they take your freedom away from you. And you will not get it anywhere else in the world. Look around the world. There is no country on the face of the earth that has ever existed on the face of the earth that has as much freedom, prosperity, and benefit all at the same time as the United States. And no one will come to replace us. No one is going to do a better job. They will give you lots of promises, and they'll put up very pretty women to try and convince you about that, and some pretty men to try and convince you of that, like Claudia de la Cruz. Yeah, very pretty woman. Sounds really sweet when she says this wonderful, flowery sales pitch on socialism. Look around the world. It doesn't work. It has never worked. If it worked anywhere in the world, everyone would be trying to enter into that country. It doesn't exist. It doesn't work. There's a reason why our Constitution has been emulated so many times in so many places, and why, because they always make changes to it, why their countries don't work as well as America. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Peter puts up a great point here. Hey, Democrats, enforce the laws that they wrote, they introduced, and they passed in Congress. But I don't know. So this is me. This is what happens when they leave me on my own on the channel. But we're talking about the Constitution. We're talking about your rights. We're talking about your freedoms. And by the way, the answer to every problem that you see in America, I've said it before on this channel. I've said it earlier in this show. I'll say it again. The answer to every problem facing America is you, the public. You and your voice, your vote, and you writing in. You can write a law. If you think the laws that they are putting out there are bad, write a law. I've done it. I've written laws and I've sent them into Congress. I've sent them into my city government. I've asked them to vote on that. I've stood up in front of elected officials and said, this is why the law I wrote should be enforced, why we should pass it. We should have a vote on it, put it in front of the referendum, put it as a referendum in front of the public and let them vote on this. Let's do this. Why? Because we, the people, make our country at the local, state, and federal level. We get to write the laws. And guess what? If you wrote a law about healthcare, I guarantee you it wouldn't be 2,000 pages long and no one would read it. I guarantee it wouldn't be confusing lawyer speak. And I am absolutely sure that it would probably work if you wrote it. But instead, we have a bunch of lawyers with their political affiliations and all of their special interests that all wanted to tweak this law and have carve-outs for themselves and to get paid by you on the side for whatever it is that the government wanted to do, as they took away your right to choose. And that's why we got a 2,000-page long Obamacare that no one uses. It is ineffective. It's fantastic emergency care. It is absolutely abysmal health care. Everyone admits it, and we can't get rid of it. Can't get rid of it. You are the power, folks. It's so important. And I do support third parties in that they exist, and they should have their voices out there. Yeah, I take the piss out of the Socialist Party because I think they're just demented. I take the piss out of the Green Party because I think they're just confused. Yeah, I disagree with libertarians on a regular basis. Then again, I disagree with Republicans and Democrats on a regular basis. But that's because we're involved. We're having the conversation. And I'm sure they get frustrated with me just as much as I get frustrated with them. But if we're having the conversation, we can get to a better solution. We are better off having the conversation than ignoring people just because we don't like what they have to say. I will absolutely every day of the week have a debate and have a conversation with Claudia de la Cruz, even though she's a socialist, and I think she's absolutely out of her mind. I will absolutely have a conversation with Jasmine Sherman, even though I think that she is abysmally dangerous. She's just the worst. I don't have the words to tell you how dangerous I think her ideas are. And I think they're repugnant. Her racism, her ageism, her sexism that she's very proud of, I think it's repugnant, but I would have a conversation with her. Why? Because maybe somewhere in there, there's a kernel of truth, a nugget, just this minuscule bit of something that could help. Maybe. But I will never know unless I have that conversation. We need to have that conversation. America isn't about shutting down voices and shutting down the conversation just because we don't like the conversation. We don't like the type of conversation or the consequences of that conversation. The Constitution is built around the idea that we're going to have disagreements. We're supposed to have disagreements. We're not, so no one is expecting us to all agree. That's not the point. If it was, we would have just created another monarchy. We would have had another authoritarian, totalitarian government. They went a different way, and it has succeeded wildly beyond their best dreams. We put a person on the moon. Think about that. We created the technology. It went from an idea to the technology, to the action, because we said we could, because American people agreed, because we put in the effort. And when people said, you can't do that, that's insane, we said, watch us. We didn't bow down and say, well, the science that's the science, it's written. We wrote new science. We made new discoveries. We put in the effort, and we got it done. And the world became better. It's part of the reason why we have the internet today. Why? Because we went to the moon. And we used those discoveries to help put up better satellites, to be able to have better communications, to be able to develop more computers and stronger computers. And that led to, eventually, the internet. Because we made a choice. Because we had a conversation. Because we didn't just accept that the science was settled. Can't go to the moon. It's not settled. There's always a conversation. And that's what happens when we're having the conversation. Peter goes, yeah, what does Peter say here? Yes, you have to hear the other side or you're yelling at a mirror. Absolutely. How do you know you're right? When I say this often too, when I have conversations with people who say, well, you're MAGA, whatever that's supposed to mean. You're MAGA. Do you mean I want to make America great? Yes. Don't you? I want more countries in the world to be able to experience the Constitution like I do. I want them to have the freedom of speech. I want them to be able to defend themselves, their families, their property. Absolutely. I want to make sure that their private property remains private and their property. I want the government to fear them. And I want to make sure that if you're being punished, you will only be punished adequately for the crime you committed, not more than the crime you committed, not based on the tier of justice that someone thinks you fit into, not based on the color of your skin, but by the law that we passed. That's what the Constitution says. And it's a wonderful document, and we just need to follow it. And I want other countries to be able to have that same experience. I want other people to have that experience. That means we have to talk. It means we have to read the Constitution. It means that we need to enforce the Constitution. And you and I do that every election, every primary. When we vote, whether it's a primary or an election, we are enforcing the Constitution. We're enforcing the Bill of Rights. Everyone who tells you your vote doesn't matter has an agenda, and they are trying to strip away your freedom and your life. Vote. I don't care who you vote for. I'm not telling you who to vote for. That's on you. Do your homework, figure it out, and make the choice you think is right. Maybe you win, maybe you lose. That's on you. That's a different conversation. We're talking about your right. And anyone who says you don't get to vote, you don't get to have that right, that you just throw it away. Just throw it away. Just don't even show up. They have an agenda, and they don't want you voting, and they don't want you speaking, because it means that's one less person they have to fight against. That's one less person they have to convince. That's less resources that they have to use to counter you to get what they want. That's why they tell you your vote doesn't matter, that you don't have power as an individual, that you have to be in this party or that party, and you have to vote this way or that way. Because otherwise, they'd have to take the time to convince you. They'd have to spend the resources. They'd have to have an argument that makes sense. No, it's far easier to say, comply, or you're just a bad person. You're just a bad, evil person because you're not obeying. Well, you know what? Maybe if I were in England, maybe if I were in Canada, if I were in Venezuela, Ecuador, Angola, Zimbabwe, China, maybe then I'd say, oh yeah, well, I just have to obey. Yeah, because you don't really have choices there. You don't have freedom there. But I live in America. You probably live in America if you're watching this program, or you want to be in a nation like America if you're watching it from overseas. Means be involved. Use the Constitution as your guide and be involved. And if that involvement leads you to the Socialist Party, I don't know how you got there, but okay. If that involvement leads you to become a progressive, I don't know how you got there, but okay. If it leads you to become a Democrat, I can understand how you got there. Hopefully you'll make a better decision, but okay. Again, it's up to you. If you're coming to watch the Liberty First Foundation to be told what to feel or what to think, don't come. That's not what we do. CNN will do that for you. MSNBC are fantastic at doing that. The New York Times excels at telling you what they want you to do, how they want you to feel, what they want you to parrot, because they don't care about the Constitution. They don't quote the Constitution. They don't look at the bills and compare it to the freedoms in the Constitution. They don't ask the question, is this an abuse of power because the government is restricted? They don't do that. We do. And this week, you're just getting me. But remember, every week, we have Frank Johnson, Mike Marshall. We often have Jan and Dal and many others. We have candidates that come on and speak with us, as we were talking with Trey Ewing out of West Virginia. We had the candidates come meet us and answer our questions so that you can make a better decision. That's what it's all about. That's the constitutional power of the American people. That's how you change things. You don't need to riot. You don't need to burn down a city. You don't need to attack people. That's not necessary. All you need to do, vote. Speak to your congressman or congresswoman. Speak to the member of the Senate. Write a letter to the White House. Tell them what you think. Your local government, go to the local government meeting, and at the public speaking portion, tell them what you think. And for those politicians, when you get that letter that tells you you suck, when that person shows up at that public speaking event and they have the microphone and they tell you you failed in your job, when Joe Biden watches commentators on YouTube and Rumble and they say you have failed as a leader, the answer isn't, oh, well, I don't care what you think. The answer is reevaluate what you did. Reevaluate the direction you are leading America or the American people in. If you are seeing millions of people, 58% of poll after poll after poll say you have failed, I think maybe you have failed. I'm not talking about the one-off poll and some, obscure organization that can't be duplicated. When we're talking about month after month after month, poll after poll after poll, asked every different way you want to ask it, and it always comes back with, you failed. I think you failed. Why not step back and go back to the Constitution and start over? America is very forgiving. We are the most generous, most forgiving nation in the world. We are that way because we're the most free nation in the world. And we can understand how difficult life is. We understand that for our politicians too. You screwed up. You failed. You're a human being. Joe Biden is allowed to fail. He's human. Admit your failure and come up with a better plan. Ask the American people. This is the thing I never get. All these political parties, I'm talking about Republicans as well as Democrats and progressives and socialists, all of them. I never understand this. You have access to 330 million people. 330 million walking computers with experiences that cover the entire globe. Every religion, every ideology, political or social, every experience known to man happens in America. We have people from everywhere, all in one place. And if we ask 330 million people to talk about, to try and figure out what's the solution to this problem, that's 330 million computers with all that life experience, all working together towards a single objective. I think we'll get a great solution. The answer isn't don't vote. It's I want you to vote and I want you to tell me why you voted. I want your reasons. I want to hear why you think this is a good law or a bad law, and I want to know why you wrote a better law. What does your new law do that the old law didn't do? Tell me why it's better. Let's have that conversation. Because if we get 330 million people to have that conversation, I guarantee you when we get done, it will be the best damn law you have ever seen. I won't need to write that law again. Ever again. It will be incorruptible. It will be perfect, or as close to perfect as human beings are allowed to be. See, that's the power that you have in America, in a democracy, in the democratic congressional, constitutional republic that we have. We can have this conversation. We can all pour in our thoughts. We can work it through. And the result we get at the end will stand the test of time. The United States Constitution stands the test of time because they had dozens of individuals arguing for months about every single word, every single punctuation in that document. And when they got done arguing, we have a document that is the envy of every government in the world, and everyone in the world wants to live under those rules, the Constitution. Everyone wants to be like America. It's just fact. So why don't we have these conversations more often? Why don't we refer to the Constitution more? Teach your kids the Constitution. Teach your kids the amendments. If the school won't teach it to them, you as the parent, you as the uncle, you as the brother, the sister, the nephew, you as the friend of the family, give them the Constitution. Show them the Constitution. Ask them about the Constitution and ask them what they think. That's how we improve America. That would be the best way to improve America. I don't know. Maybe I'm just crazy. Am I crazy? I think I don't want to speak from my associates Frank Johnson or Mike Marshall, or any of the guests that we have on the program, even our recurring commentators, which would be Peter and Dal and Jan. I don't want to speak for anyone else. I think that's what the Constitution's about. I think that's what the framers, the original founders, when they were having their arguments, at the end of the day, they had this hope in the back of their mind. They had this glimmer of an opportunity. They said, but maybe the people will all speak with each other. Maybe they'll have a conversation. They'll debate like crazy. They'll disagree adamantly, passionately. And at the end of the day, they're going to come up with the best laws we have ever seen. They're going to come up with the best system that could be created by mankind. I like to think that's what they thought. I like to think that's the true potential of America. Not silencing groups of people you don't like, not judging people based on their political preferences, as well as the color of their skin, their gender, their sexual preference. These are all useless reasons to disagree with someone. Immaterial, useless. I don't care if you're gay. Could care less. Don't care if you're male or female or you're somewhere in between or some other thing. You can be transhuman. You could be a toaster. Don't care. Not important to me. Are you hurting anyone? No. Are you involving children? No. I don't care. Be anything you want to do. Do it however you want to do it. Have the conversation with us. I think that's important. And I think Joanna agrees with what I was just saying there. I hope more people do as well. And Peter says, well, with me, you're yelling in a mirror, but I'll give you a thumbs up. Well, thank you, Peter. I know a lot of people who are watching the show right now agree. But by the way, send it to someone else. Send it to them and say, hey, this is what this crazy black Puerto Rican who's bald at the moment, you want to see what he says? It's kind of interesting. Do you agree with that? Is that the way that the Constitution is supposed to work? Do you know if that's the way the Constitution is supposed to work? Here's a better question. Do you know if I'm being constitutionally correct or not? You can't go to the New York Times and ask them. They don't care. They're busy telling you what they want you to do. Do you know if I'm being constitutionally correct? If you don't, maybe you should. Jan says, you are correct, boss, except today's Democrats view political opinions as evil if you don't agree with their narrative. And that is why today, when you try to talk politics, you're instantly a racist, a sexist, some ist, some phobe. Well, yes, because that's how you silence people. That's how you shut them down. That's how you destroy the conversation. You're an ist. You can't talk. Oh, you're a phobe. I don't have to listen to you. That's cowardly. Cowardly. I say it again. It's not like I've never met racists in my life. I've had them come right up to my face. And I've had conversations with them. Some, not all. Not in every situation. But I've confronted racists before. One of the most powerful things is to actually talk with them and go, why do you think that? How dare you? Oh, you think I'm less than? Fantastic. Pretty well-educated man. Let's have that conversation. But you're afraid to. And see, that's the thing. When they hear this voice, when they hear that tells you something. How confident can you be if you can't have the conversation? That you can't defend your ideas? Oh yeah, socialism's fantastic. Everyone will have everything at all times. Are you sure? Let's debate that. Because real world says that's just not true. And knowing human beings, the history of human beings says that's not true. So let's have that conversation. Oh, no, you don't want to have that conversation. Oh, is it because you're afraid you're going to lose the discussion, that I'm going to find more flaws than you can find benefit in your argument, which means your argument fails? Is that why? Because you don't want to deal with the rejection of being wrong. Well, how about this? Find out why you're wrong and make a better system. Maybe there's a better system than socialism. Could be a better system than democracy or constitutional republic. Could exist. You'll never know if you don't have the conversation. When I wrote laws and I submitted them to my local government and to the federal government, I didn't know that it was a good law or a bad law. Doesn't matter that it didn't move forward. That's not important. The question is, was it a good law? Was it a bad law? Well, I went to lawyers. I went to doctors. I went to librarians. I went to teachers. I went to mechanics. I went to everyone I could and said, what do you think of this? Does this make sense to you? Does this work? Is there something obvious that I missed about this? When I got back the feedback that said, no, this makes sense. It works. I don't see a problem with it. It works in this situation, that situation, in another situation. Seems like a good law. Then I submitted it. Now, it didn't go forward because of politics. People hate me because I'm a conservative Republican. I'm black and I got a big mouth. So it didn't go forward, but that's politics. That's the game. The law itself, the laws that I wrote, they're sound. And any Democrat, any progressive, any conservative, any libertarian can pick up the laws that I wrote and submit them as their own. And it will function exactly the same. Because the politics don't care. The law doesn't care about the politics. The politics is who's in charge of putting in the laws to be approved or disapproved. There's the difference. The laws aren't political. People are political. People, their politics limit which laws get to be put out to get the vote, to be enacted. And in that respect, we need to be involved to make sure that the best law with the best results are put forward. Because otherwise, then you get Oregon putting out a bad law that everyone knew would fail. There was no one of sound mind that believed allowing hard drugs like heroin and crack cocaine and fentanyl, telling people that there's no crime and there's no limitation and just crack yourself out, that wouldn't have any negative consequences. Everyone knew there was going to be a negative consequence. Everyone knew that this was an abysmal failure of a law and that the consequences were going to be absolutely devastating to the people of Oregon and every other state in this nation. And it was. Time has shown us. The proof is in the results of the experiment. You had a hypothesis when you went in. You had a theorem and said, hey, well, if we make crack legal, people will stop having crack. That's your theory. I said that theory was absolutely stupid. It was rubbish. It was going to fail on its face. You said, well, we're going to do it anyway. We did it. We got the results back. I was right. It was a stupid idea. Did more damage than it did any good. Let's move forward. Let's write a better law. Listen to the public rather than saying, well, you're just a Republican. And so, does that change the fact that passing around crack pipes isn't going to benefit society? Doesn't matter whether I'm a Republican or a socialist or a conservative or a libertarian. Doesn't matter. Guess what? At the end of the day, the result is still the same thing. Whether you think I'm gay or straight, whether you think I'm black or white or Hispanic, whether I'm tall or short, fat or skinny, doesn't matter. Has no impact. The politics doesn't change the results. So let's stop limiting ourselves with those things. The Constitution doesn't limit people based on those things. Then let's not impose those limitations. Jan says, right there with you, Voss, as a white female homosexual, I deemed evil. She's deemed evil all the time because she doesn't agree with the agenda. And if you agreed with the agenda, Jan, you would be angelic. You would be perfect. And no one could question you. And no one could doubt you. But because you don't agree with what's already approved, with people who are trying to attain a political agenda, people who have a goal and want to take away your rights and freedom, because you disagree with them, now you're bad. But aren't you in the check boxes that are supposed to elevate you? Aren't you part of those protected groups that people must listen to you? But they're saying, but they don't have to listen to you. It's like, you know what, Jen? It's like when people tell me, but Mike, you're not black, but I am. I'm black Puerto Rican. I've seen my mom, I've seen my dad, I see my family. I look in the mirror every day. I'm black and Hispanic. You can't take that away from me. Oh, but you don't vote the right way. You don't have the right political ideology. For you, you don't get to control how I live and think and what I believe in. But you're supposed to obey. And you can't be, black people in America, well, I'm supposed to be held above. I'm a protected group. My voice must be heard. If you listen to the left, you have to listen to black people. You have to listen to indigenous people. You must listen to them, and you better not disagree. Well, guess what? I'm black and Hispanic. I am that indigenous person. I am that minority. Aren't you supposed to be listening to me? Why don't I count? Oh, that's because it doesn't give you an advantage. The very same progressives that say you have to listen to black people, you have to listen to gay people, you have to listen to women, that you must agree with them, those very same people carve out as long as they agree with us. They have that little asterisk there that says, oh, as long as you agree with us. That's not what the Constitution says. That's nowhere in the Constitution. It doesn't exist. That's political preference. That's corruption. That says, oh, no, you have to, these people are a priority as long as they agree. The second they don't agree, well, they don't exist. They're not real. You're not a real black man. Really? What? There's some kind of license? Is there a registration form? Is there somewhere I have to sign up or something? Because guess what? I was born. I'm black. I'm black and Hispanic. That's it. There was no sign. I didn't have to sign for this. I didn't have to take a pill to get the perfect suntan. Didn't happen. You can't take that away from me. But yet they want to take it away from me. Well, you're not the right kind of black. Not the right kind. So there's qualification. And that qualification is based on the benefit I provide to a political organization, the benefit I provide to an agenda. Well, that's not in the Constitution. That's nowhere in the Constitution. That's not in the amendments. And I would fight that. Why? Because it's not constitutional. That's not part of freedom. That's not improving people's ability to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You're putting in a restriction. You're putting in a condition that only benefits your agenda. That's a problem. That is a problem. And you deserve to be called out for that. And called out for those reasons. Peter says, a real black man would take great offense to being told to obey, he would think. I will tell you, yes, historically speaking, not just historically, currently speaking, at any time in my 56 years of life, you are absolutely correct, Peter. I should not, no one should be told you must obey, not in America. Again, if you're in Angola, if you're in Zimbabwe, Nicaragua, Venezuela, the United Kingdom, Canada, France, and people tell you you have to obey, different set of rules. They all have a very different set of rules. If you're in China, Russia, you don't even get a choice. Iran, you don't get a choice. But those are different rules. We're in America. In America, how dare you tell someone to blindly obey just because you said so? Oh, you're black. You must vote Democrat. Why? Why must I? Well, it's good for you. Why? Well, don't you understand? No. Why? Explain it to me. Give me the reason. Because I can tell you the reasons why it's not good for me to be a Democrat. I can explain the reasons I can show you and display the failures of the Democratic Party as an example. Again, going back to what we were talking about earlier today in Oregon, hard drugs, legalizing hard drugs. That was a Democratic progressive idea. It failed. It hurt dozens, hundreds, thousands of individuals. It was horrible. Why do I want to support that? Oh, but Mike, but they're Democrats. And don't stop there. That's not the end of the conversation. That's the beginning. That's the start of the sentence, not the end of the sentence. But you're black isn't even relevant. Again, yesterday at the free and equal debate amongst third-party Republicans, again, Jasmine Sherman of the Green Party wants people to vote for her. She wants you to donate to her. She wants to get your support because she is a fat black woman. Yeah, that's it. A fat black woman. That's what she said on the stage. That was the reason why you should vote for her, because she's fat and she's black and a socialist. I'm sorry. Two of those things have absolutely nothing to do with anything. Who cares if you're fat? Who cares if you're black? Are you good? Are you qualified? Are you intelligent? Can you have a conversation? Do you understand the consequences of what you're doing? And if you dared to tell Jasmine Sherman of the Green Party that she should just obey, she would have a fit. She would lose her mind. And yet, she would tell a black Republican, a black libertarian, a black conservative, you guys don't have a choice. You have to obey. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. All right. So, oh my God. Wow. By myself. And here I am at 2 hours and 16 minutes. Well, to give you guys an idea, this is not uncommon for me. I do on the Sunday live stream, I will often I do at least 2.5 hours of conversation, kind of a little bit more involved, but kind of like the way I'm doing it here today. So that's not a surprise that I can talk this long about so many issues. And once it's put a microphone next to me and give me an issue and I'll talk for forever. But I did want to mention there is something that's coming up. There it is. Let me see if I can get this on screen for you guys. I did want you to know, besides the Sunday live stream that I do every week at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, there is something that's coming up that I think is really going to be exciting, and I want people to be able to be aware of it. Since I'm the only one here tonight, I'm going to share it with you guys. On Monday at 9 p.m., I will be part of a political roundtable discussion, kind of like what we usually do here on Fridays. This week it's on Larry Sharp's program. It's called the Sharp Club, 9 p.m. So it doesn't take you away from seeing me on Sunday, doesn't take you away from the Friday roundtable that we have with the Liberty First Foundation that you're watching right now. It will be on Monday at 9 p.m. Gary from Nerdronic, Gary Beegler of Nerdronic, he's very popular. He's got I believe he's just at about 1 million subscribers right now. He's the guy who quoted the term MCU. He's very influential in talking about movies and politics. He's a friend of Mahler and Az from Heels versus Babyface and The Critical Drinker. He'll be speaking. Molly Smash, an activist, a very interesting woman. She will be joining us as well as me and Larry Sharp, Larry being a libertarian, me being a conservative Republican, talking about, is art influencing life or is life influencing art? It's it's the classic conversation, but I think it's a good one. And we have the right people to talk about this from several different points of view. So that's going to be interesting. I hope you'll join us for that. most of all, though, I want you to come on out, and every Friday, please do us a favor. Come out, join us, and follow, like, share, and subscribe for the Liberty First Foundation for this Friday roundtable. If you found this entertaining, you found it interesting, you found it worthwhile at all, if you agreed with part or any part of the conversation, either earlier when Frank was speaking or some of the ideas I've been talking about, then give us a like, a share. Most of all, subscribe. Give us the opportunity to reach more people, more voices. Like I said, 330 million Americans all working on the same idea will benefit the world. The same thing in having these political conversations. You want to have a better conversation when Mike Marshall is here, when Frank Johnson is here, when our guests are in, then do us a favor, like and share. Let us hear from more voices like Pete and Dal and Jan and you who are watching this, and you're probably not subscribed, and you probably didn't say anything, but you watched the entire show. Great. Then subscribe. Give us the opportunity to reach more people, to have more of a conversation, to impact and change things, to put the fear of God into our politicians and to remind them that they must obey us, not us obey them, that they are our servants. We don't serve them, they serve us. And that the Constitution is the best binding government ever written. Until we find something written better that we all can agree on, it doesn't exist. This is the best it gets. Let's make the most of it. We can do that together by having these conversations and turning around and going to our members of Congress, going to our members of the Senate, going to our president, our local government, and telling them, don't forget, you serve us. We have a voice. Hear what we have to say and pay attention. Also, remember, you can also show your support by becoming a member for the Liberty First Foundation. Your membership helps to pay to keep the lights on, to keep the show so that we can stream to multiple channels, reach people all over America and around the world. We're always happy to hear those voices from overseas as well. And you can do this by, of course, where is it? Oh, there it is. By buying the Liberty First Foundation coffee. Yes, we have coffee and tea. You can go to Leo's Cafe and be able to buy the Liberty First Foundation brand of coffee. We hope that you'll enjoy that. And I always like to, whenever I'm on by myself and I'm doing a show, I always like to remind people, if for any reason you are feeling bad, I know we've been having a horrendous last 4 years. I personally have suffered as much as many other people. I know it's been difficult. I know we've all taken losses. We've lost our friends and family. We've lost property and jobs, and all that is transitional. You can make it through that. Even these difficult times. Oh, you're terrified that President Trump will win the next election. Oh my God, what are you going to do? Don't ever hurt yourself. Go out and talk to someone. Reach out to people. You're a veteran, you're homeless, you're someone who's dealing with PTSD, you have a bad family life. There are many challenges in life. Many of us have had those challenges and survived them. Reach out. Ask them how they survived. Ask them how they made it to the next day. I was homeless twice. You have a question about being homeless? Don't hurt yourself. Ask the question, how do you deal with homelessness? How do you get out of homelessness? How do you move forward with your life? Let's have these conversations. Again, it's that communication with everyone that helps us all do so much better. And that's why I want you to consider the National Suicide Hotline. It is 988. Text 988 if you have these difficult thoughts. If all the things that happen in life are starting to weigh you down, have that conversation. Because things will get better. They will get different. They will change. There's always a better path. And please take that opportunity to hear that. So I did want to mention these things about the show and to let you know about it. Oh, and Jan does mention, and by the way, there is always the opportunity. If you're watching the program, you've seen any of this, and you say, well, I'd like to be on, I wish I could be on the Liberty First Foundation and tell you why you're wrong, Mike. I want to tell you guys what you misunderstand about the Constitution. I want to talk to Mike Marshall and tell him why he didn't understand that right. I want to talk to Frank Johnson about the Second Amendment and what he doesn't understand about guns. You can. You can do that. Become a subscriber and ask us and say, hey, guys, can I come on? Can I give you my argument? Can we have that discussion? And you'll probably be on. We're very open to having those conversations and hearing those voices and finding out if we're right or wrong. How do you know you're right until someone challenges you and says, hey, does it work? Is it right? So that is always an option as well. All right, folks. So I have been on for, 2 hours and 25 minutes. Wow, that's long. Most of that by myself. So I know, again, I want to mention thank you to Frank Johnson, to Mike Marshall, the creators of the Liberty First Foundation. Normally, they are the host and co-host of the show on a Friday. We usually go on from 9 p.m. until 11 on Friday nights, talking about all the different issues that could possibly affect you, how that relates to the Constitution. What is an overreach of power? What is a corruption of power? What is an abuse of power? And what is your power and how you can take control and help improve America, to make America great, not because it's MAGA, not because of Trump, not because of Biden, not because of the Socialist Party or anyone else, because making America the best it can be is good for everyone in the world. And that's what we do every Friday. I hope next Friday you will join us. I am sure my co-hosts, Frank Johnson, Mike Marshall, will be feeling better and they'll be fully rested and they'll be on with us and they'll be leading the conversation instead of me. That's what I do on Sundays. Folks, I want to thank you once again. I want you to be well. I look forward to seeing you every Friday and every Sunday. I would look forward to seeing you this Monday as well. Please have a great weekend. I'll talk to you again very soon. The Liberty First Foundation will talk to you again very, very soon. And okay, how do I stop this system? Night. I'm trying to figure out how to turn it off. Okay. It's not my normal system, so I'm trying to figure it out. Nope. See, this is what happens when I'm using a system that's not my own. I don't even know how to close it out. Okay, I'm trying to figure out how to turn it off, folks. Don't know how to turn it off. Okay.